101.9 FM. Z 101.9 FM.
Still the focus on Z 101.9 FM. As mentioned earlier, we're going to have a conversation today about the unemployment threat. We see a lot of people right after university, they have nothing doing. Sometimes you see people with envelopes standing by the roadside, just distributing their CVs to see if anybody could be of help to them. Now this problem is getting quite worrying because across the World Bank even reports that about 1.2 billion young people will enter the global workforce in the next decade. But only 420 million jobs will be created. So for the excess of 800 or 700 million people, what is going to happen to them? And especially for Africa, what are we going to do? Also in the wake of AI and technology, where a lot of jobs have been taken over by machines, what is going to happen to our employment force? We may say that looking forward in about a decade, a lot of jobs which people today are proud of may be taken over by computers. What is going to happen to the people? So we're going to have that conversation about the unemployment threat. We're going to look into the future of it, look at the present first and look into the future of it. And we can see how we can build ourselves in a way that you and I will not lose our jobs. And I have in studio with me Mr. Emmanuel Ebu Apenten. And Mr. Apenten is a researcher and engineer. He particularly wants to address himself also as a youth advocate. Mr. Apenten, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Esquire. And it's an honor and privilege to meet you.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll have joining me online shortly Professor Gabriel Ishon, who is a professor of tourism management at the University of Johannesburg. He'll join us shortly online. And Prof, are you online already?
Yes, I am.
All right, Prof, you are welcome to the focus this morning.
Thank you very much, and greetings to your audience as well.
All right, thank you very much. Prof, since you're online, then let me start with you. This unemployment canker we find ourselves, generally, how do you feel about it?
Thanks a lot. The issue of unemployment is a big one, and it's really setting on time bomb because, without unemployment, focus really becomes pushed into disarray. Your decision to be able to find yourself in a world and its myriad challenges become even more labyrinthine, more challenging. So employment is very important. You see, right from the Bible, it said, till the land, okay? Till the land means that get something doing. But we need to be able to, I know later on in the conversation, we may have the opportunity to be able to look at the historical, underpinnings to the unemployment that we have, and also the current scenarios that are actually giving it even more negative highlights, and impacts. We need to be able to understand that. Personally, I don't really get too emotional about stuff because I have decided to look at things, in a more empirical way. And I think the way forward is to go beyond, the rhetorics, and to really get into the actual theater of making things turn around for the best, for the best of our people. Because if we don't do that, we have the youngest population on planet Earth, and and I always ask myself, what kind of youth, focused programs do we have on board to really address the challenges of the youth beyond even unemployment? We need to be able to really have a renewal or regeneration of the way in which we look at employment itself, and also to let people find their purposes. You see, gone are the days that when everybody will say, go to school, go to school, go to school. But going to school is different from education, because real education is about finding your purpose on earth. Okay? And then that's why Honda dropped out of school. That's why Mark Zuckerberg dropped out of school. They don't have that patience sometimes for it. Okay? People who have found their passion, they have found their purpose. They are looking for education to come and augment what they want to do. Okay? So education is supposed to be a catalyst, helping you to be able to find your feet in a world, and you identifying a problem and thinking about ways in which you can bring a solution to it. That is what education is about. You see? But strangely, the kind of education that we have is still on the 3 R's, writing, reading, and arithmetic. And Kwesi Aggrey has already warned us long time ago that we should be looking for the 3H education, which has got to do with the head, the hand,
and the heart.
Do you know, in history, one time Kwesi Aggrey met J.B. Dankwa, and J.B. Dankwa told him he was going to do law. And imagine what Kwesi Aggrey told him. He said that, how about agriculture? He was not trying to say that don't go and do the law, okay? But Kwesi Aggrey was bringing right to the mindset that we must be able to also create industries that create the right multiplier effect for our people, and that's the onus on our shoulders, that we need to be able to really look at ourselves and say, what is our purpose on earth? And what kind of education that I must have to be able to accentuate that? If not, then education just becomes certification, where people just get degrees and certificates and all that. And that is antithetical to the African personality that Kwame Nkrumah was talking about. Because the African personality that we have is the African who is able to control his own affairs. And how can you control your own affairs when you are waiting for Deus Ex Machina, something to drop from the sky?
Yeah, all right. I mean, Prof, thank you. You have set a very good tone for the conversation, but I would hear from Mr. Appleton also, just as a preliminary remarks. How do you feel about unemployment, especially you dealing with the youth?
Let me say a good morning to you and your cherished listeners, as well as viewers across the globe. First, I would want to start this way. For me, I believe unemployment is a canker that has eaten into our fabrics as a society. And even hitting the undo button, we cannot autocorrect. It will take a lot of discipline, resilience, coupled with dedicatedness to fight this whole canker. And Prof has laid a very good foundation. So I would not want to wallow into those arena. But once we kickstart the conversation, we would delve into certain things. For me, Prof mentioned a layer that I would want to touch on, but in a different viewpoint and perspective.
Yeah.
That is education. I think it is one enabler of unemployment in our country.
How so?
So, I don't know, but for me, I believe it is time, and Prof can help us when it gets to his turn, if what I'm saying is wrong or he has a different perspective to it. For me, I believe our educational system in Ghana, I believe we practice what I called regurgitative information and test taking, what is popularly known as chew and pour.
Chew and pour.
Yeah, and once you are able to do that, you are seen as a brilliant student. And it goes a long way to cap our creativity. The IBM report of 2015, where the 1,500 CEOs says the next employable skill is creativity. For me, I believe when we go to our schools and we are just made to reproduce what we are taught, then they are limiting our thinking capability. For instance, I did engineering, and whilst I was studying engineering, there were some lecturers that they would want you to produce verbatim what they've given you in class. So there is no room for innovativeness and creativity. Another thing I also realized is that, you see, at a very infant stage, for me, I believe to some extent, our creativeness is being gagged. Why do I say this? You know, way back in kindergarten and our daycare, we are told to shade in the box. If you dare shade outside the box, you are given a knock, you are beaten, and sometimes you are punished. In other jurisdictions, you are guided, you are taught, or there is a system they have that it guides you to show you the very reason you are not supposed to shade outside the box. But in our jurisdiction, you are beaten. I remember, whilst from primary to junior high school, I had a teacher, mentor, when he comes to class early morning, he can hold your hands like this. And these things, growing up, I realized that these things are things that a calculator can give me.
Yeah.
So why should I worry myself with these? But they will tell you.
But isn't it to build a cognitive part of your mind, to build some speed in you?
Good. They are all good. But to what extent? Prof was talking about our education. So let's say I go to school. I'm told, and I remember in thermodynamics, mathematics 4 and all these things, you can prove a formula that is already in existence. You enter an examination and you are told to prove a formula. And you can write, you see that examination paper, you can write like 3-4 pages just proving that formula before you can use it for normal calculations. So I asked myself, after all these things, what was the impact? Meanwhile, in my same school, in Regional Maritime University, I had a lecturer, and his name was Cedro Delight. He was teaching in Regional Maritime and also was teaching in MIT. So he taught us thermodynamics and ref and AC. So he brought a new dynamic to teaching and learning. What he does is that he will come to class, he will teach the subject. If it's on ref and AC, he will let you understand the basic theories, principles, and concepts. So once he's done, then he goes and gives practical relational questions. And I remember in one of our exams, we all entered the examination hall expecting, the normal Ghanaian students, expecting that we are going to be asked, what is thermodynamics, if this is this. Then he asked a simple question. There were only 2 questions on the paper, and that was for 60 marks. He says, for instance, we are in this room. When you entered, the room temperature was, let's say, 28 degrees Celsius. In the next 30 minutes, 5 people joined you in the room. In the next 15 minutes, you had another 3 people joining. Now, the temperature in the room is becoming hot. What are the possible things you can do? Come and see us. Because we're not used to it. We've been used to one particular style.
Yeah.
What I call regurgitating information and test taking. We know that these are the formulas. We apply it. You give us. We put in our figures, and we are going. So he later, after the exams, he came to class. I think either Ref and AC2. He came and he told us that, look, to be honest, the theories and all those things we see in the books are not what we are going to meet in the field. We are going to meet relatable, practical things on the field. So if we really want to learn, we should start upping up our games. And don't forget, as a marine engineer, you were going to compete with people from Korea, the Singapore, the Shanghai maritime people, and all those things. And they are not only learning what you've been taught in class or the theoretical aspect. They add practical or relatable things to it. So that is why he gave us those things. And from that point, we appreciated him for that. But ask yourself, how many of our lecturers can do these things? So for me, that is why I see that our educational system is an enabler of unemployment in Ghana.
Stapleton says the educational system is an enabler of unemployment. So at least from our preliminary remarks, we come to appreciate that one of the main problem, or a main problem of, or let me not say a main, a problem of unemployment in our country is education. Prof, let me come to you then, since you are particularly in education. Prof, what went wrong with our educational system? How did we get to a point where it was, as you mentioned, we do the 3 R's, the writing, reading, arithmetic? Why and how did we get there? How can't we break free from that?
Right. You know, the education that we have started from the Castle schools, from Elmina, Osu Castle, Cape Coast Castle, where, for example, the Osu one, the days and all that, impregnating some women in the area and wanting their children to get some knowledge. So what kind of knowledge were they actually even putting in the minds of the locals? A great work has been done by Professor Wellington and the rest, where they talk about the fact that they expose some of these students to the horrific nature of even the slave trade and making them feel as if they were superior and they have an advantage even coming to the castle to really learn Dutch and the rest. If you look at Philip Kweku, who is actually the first, black priest from the Anglican, when he came back, although he was employed by the British at the castle to be their priest, he formed a school in his own living room in Cape Coast. Now, what was he teaching them? The 3 R's again. If you go to the Portuguese at Elmina and all that, it was the same thing that they were teaching them. Fast forward from the slavery era to the colonial period. It will amaze you to know that the main objective of the colonial education was just to get a pool of the indigents that could help them in collecting tax, sit in council as if they are doing something, but the main voice was actually coming from, from the Whitehall, from England. So that kind of trick that you go to school, be eloquent in English, all right? Yeah. Be eloquent in arithmetics, be eloquent in writing, has been the stuff, in so much that even in Ghana now, if somebody starts speaking, right, and the language is not as, I call it, the colonial Ghanaian English, if you are not able to exude that kind of pizzazz or panache, okay,
Yeah.
that savviness in speaking the Queen's language, they may position you as not having something in your headquarters, in your head, right?
Yeah.
But life is more than that. Because the education that they brought to us was a facade to really deny us of our imagination and our creativity. And to position us, in the words of Paulo Freire, the Brazilian writer, we as the depository. So the white people, or Europe and America, now your American education system, as the depositor, and we being the depository. So if somebody comes from Europe and they are churning out all these things, we are wowed by their epistemological underpinnings, the knowledge base, but we have forgotten our knowledge base. That is why Kofi Anyidahu will say that there is politics in the education that we have as people.
Yeah.
You know, when Nkrumah was opening the African Institute at Legon, right?
Yeah.
He says that it is time that the gun gets to town. In other words, it's time that academia bring the very fecundity of their purpose to cause that needed osmosis in societal change. My friend Mumudu, Professor Mumudu, who has just been made the executive director of the National Research and Innovation Fund in the Gambia. And he was also the best practical professor in the UK 2015 Times named him. And he has always said to me, Gabriel, listen, if you're an educator, you bring the classroom to industry and industry to classroom. Do you know that in Cape Coast, the British regent, during the colonial times, told them that they should not cultivate sugarcane? And you know why he said that? Because they were producing sugarcanes in the colonies elsewhere for the slave trade during that era. So when we start producing sugarcane and all that, they will become sufficient. They don't want us to be sufficient. And the education we have is still not helping us to find ourselves. Until we find ourselves with a new African mindset. So we realize that we have to bring African solutions to our African problems. So we realize that we cannot borrow matrices, models, and be eloquent in alien tongues and ideologies and just plaster them as palliatives, rather than really looking into the face of the challenges we are facing as Ghanaians, as Africans, and see how do we even look at the foundations that we have. And when we are saying this, we are not trying to come out with a new epistemological view. We are not reinventing any epistemological, but we are always questioning how the epistemological view should move. You go to the universities, for example, almost everybody is using questionnaire in their research. It has become the opium of the students. Even the research area has got nothing to do with questionnaires. They will use questionnaire because they want to go and use SPSS and do quantitative analysis. You meet professors who cannot profess. Professors who are eloquent, they become parrots of other people's ideas. And you ask them, what is your own idea on things? Then you find them, falling on their own tongue. Time has come as Africans that we must look at our titles and education and all that and ask our own self, what is coming from our own minds, our creativity, our hearts? And how are those things addressing problems? Nobody should go to university, for example, pharmacy. You are doing doctor in pharmacy, and you just come out with a thesis. You have not even come out with any solution, any medicine or something to solve even one problem. And we give you a DFAM, and you are happy. You see, we are funny people sometimes, and we also indulge in a lot of euphemisms that create more abyss for us. Things that we are supposed to say in naked truth and with brotherly and sisterly love, we rather push it under the carpet. Then comes the putrid smell that has continued to buffet our noses time immemorial. This is where we need to really think through very well. We are happy, and we must be happy as people. Why? Because we had a leader right from our independence, Kwame Nkrumah, who showed us that we must marry theory and practice. He went to Kwabenya and said that we need to generate that using nuclear energy. What happened to that project? After he was ousted, they took the gadget and gave it to America. Okay? We have a leader that we can actually look at and see the good things that he did, besides whatever reservations that people can do. And use even Kwame Nkrumah to really motivate ourselves. How many people have gone to universities and have read even any of Kwame Nkrumah's books? How many? Conscientialism? How many have read Neocolonialism? How many have read Africa Must Unite? How many have read? So we walk around as if our elders have not done anything for us. When Jacob Osensei got the money, somebody who have not stepped into classroom, he had the presence of mind to sponsor Mensa Saba and the rest to go to England to fight the land bill. That's how come we didn't get the case of Kenya and South Africa and the rest. How many monuments have you built in Jacob Osensei's name? How many people even know about his name? So we are in anemia, of our own somebodyness. And we need to recover ourselves through the education that we have. And that's why I'm saying that, I did science at St. Augustine's, all right? And I did agricultural science at Kwame Nkrumah University. And I moved away to business, and now I'm into tourism, okay?
Yeah.
Now, when you look back, somebody will say, oh, but your degrees are skirt and blouse. I look at people like this and I say, how come that you even got DI in front of your name? There's never anything like skirt and blouse in education. There's never a hard, concrete boundaries or consortues between disciplines, okay? So somebody can have first degree in economics, second degree in economics, and then their terminal degree in economics, and yet they will not be able to show the fruits of their education because that education was actually certification. So let's see how practically we as a people can think outside the box and sometimes even think as if there's no box. One way in primary, I just said, Nelson said that facts, go into the box. Then the fox says that no. But now we are still forcing people's minds to be in boxes. And that's what education here is. Lecturers, teachers, and all that seeking to make it their doppelgangers. You still do spaces for people to fill your sentences and whatever you said in literature. Are you all right? What happened to the Bible says that gain knowledge, have understanding and wisdom. And sometimes the knowledge is there and the other two items are totally absent. And that's also part of our problem. I'll just end with this short story on this submission. My brother, who is now a prophet, Abraham, when he was in class 3 at Mankasim, his teacher said they should draw a house. He drew a house and covered it, the roof, colored it green. Teacher called him and lashed him in front of the class. Years passed, me and my brother working in Mankasim Street one day, we saw the teacher. He said hello. He said hello to his teacher. Then he said, sir, come, you did something that I remember, I have to tell you. Do you remember when I was in class 3 that I colored a house, the roof tray, the roof with green, You remember? He said, yeah, I remember that. You still remember this, Abby? He said, yes. And you remember, you lashed me. He said, yes. He said, look around. Don't you see green colored roofs around here? He just said, oh, you know. But this is what I'm saying. I just evoke this particular anecdote to show you that we shouldn't force the forces to go into the box. Okay? We shouldn't. People look at the youth now and they think that, oh, the future is gloom and doom. No, the future is not gloom and doom. Anybody who say the future is gloom and doom is already not doing well in their house. Because if you've got children, you will not even make that a bowel. Okay? Yeah. They may not told our lines like how we went to school and learned stuff and all that. But the global nature of stuff is such that we must help them. Maya Angelou will say that let's make our shoulders available for them so that they can rest on, so that they can also make their shoulders available for the next generation to come. Instead of making our shoulders available for them through mentorship, guidance, and all that, all we do sometimes is that we have become the champion artists. That when we speak, when we have an idea, when we do that, our idea must be the quintessence. And that doesn't work anywhere. You must be able to get the panoply of ideas across the table and then look at the best one that really helps everybody to progress. And that is why I say over and over again that the pedagogy, the way in which we teach at the university, we must relook into it and see how practically that, for example, the 24-hour economy, to me, if it's going to work, must be tied to the educational institutions. Because that is where the mind changes about the whole economy. Okay?
Yeah.
And then I think later on I'll also talk critically about the comparative advantage that we have as a country and how do we move to really capitalize on these advantages that we have in a way that creates the synergy that we are looking for in terms of our economic emancipation.
Right. In fact, we also will come to look at your earlier proposal on the head, heart, and hand model of education. We'll come back to it. But I'll turn to Mr. Pinton. So Prof has properly dissected the problem in our educational system, and education being a major problem of unemployment. From where you sit, dealing with a lot of people who practically face these problems, what other problems do you think contribute to the unemployment problem in our country?
Kweku, I think Prof has done justice to the issues in our educational system, giving us historical antecedents. One thing I would also want to talk about is overdependence on public sector. And this is also tied to parenting. I don't know about you, but growing up, I frequently heard from my uncles, my aunties, and the rest, and they all used to say that you would have to excel in your academics so that you land a good paying job in the government sector.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it is not far-fetched, or they cannot be wrong, because now, looking at job security, you can only find it mainly in the public sector. But for me, I believe that if we are going to do away with unemployment, I don't know whether we will come to the informal sector. If you look at private sector, most private sector are doing well. And even the network that we are on now is a private enterprise. So for me, I believe it is time we open up ourselves and we break away from those archaic mindset of we can only thrive in the public sector. There are so many leverages and opportunities in the public as well as other enterprises. If we are going to put ourselves to it, if you are going to learn. Also, I also see lack of entrepreneurial constraints such as finances. For instance, if today I have a proposal or I want to start a business, the startup, and now you can see that is why most people are unemployed in Ghana. To be honest with you, I've met a lot of young people from startup, which was started by Solomon Ajay and the rest. And whilst I was in school, I was the organizer for Engineering Students Association. And I have seen so many people come up with innovative ideas, but funding becomes an issue. And that is where most of these creativity and innovations are truncated. So it's not like, as Prof earlier reiterated, it's not like most of our youth are just, they don't have the creative prowess. They do. But one thing that needs these things for you to thrive is the conducive environment, the enabling environment, and finances, which is the main deal. If you have an idea and you don't have the finances to put it to work, it will still remain an idea. And before you realize, it dies off because it would fade off without you even blinking. Because one thing about the Ghanaian youth is that we are very passionate about what we would want to do, but we lack the resilience and patience. Because once one person, let's say, for instance, we have so many people with talents, and even your parents at a point would even give you off. Because once you are done with school and you are asked, oh, what are you doing? Oh, for me, I want to start my own business. Let's say you try 1, you try 2, you try 3, and it's still not picking. The next thing you hear from your confidants are that, oh, why not look at picking up a job so that maybe you can do it side by side? They will not look at, okay, let's help him succeed. Let's make this idea work out for him. No. The next thing they will tell you, oh, rather go look for job in the public sector or even in the private sector so that you can rather build up your capital, which is good. It's not bad though, but I believe there is more we can do so that some of these things will be a thing of the past.
Right, but you also touched on the informal sector. Do you think that we are not aggressive enough into the informal sector, and that is what is also causing unemployment?
Yes.
Because if you mention the public sector, yes, everybody wants to run the public sector. How many people's parents will agree that, let's say, after your engineering degree, you said, I'm going to start the making of, let's say, matchsticks. So you are just right out there doing your own thing. I mean, how?
Yeah. So if you look at the recent Ghana Statistical Service report, it says that 80% of the Ghanaian workforce is in the informal sector.
80%?
80%, yeah, that high. However, this 80% represents only 27% of our GDP, which shows that it cannot drive economic growth as well as create sustainable jobs. And once that happens, you realize that it would limit access to social protection as well as labor laws. So for me, I believe if we are able to bridge the gap, as Prof earlier stated, if we're able to bridge the gap between academia and industry, and he couldn't have put it better when he said we should bring industry to academia and academia to industry, I believe it would be best. For instance, you stated that once I'm done with school, if I want to start up a matches factory, it wouldn't have been bad. But how many of our youth even knows the processes in setting up a business in Ghana? I remember, I think I only did it for a semester. You see, we talk about entrepreneurship, and I did it for only 3 months of my life in a 4-year degree program. You only study entrepreneurship just a semester, and you are done with entrepreneurship. So that tells you that we are preaching it, but our actions towards it is something. It's in variance.
Yeah.
So for me, I believe if we are able to tackle or do much, especially looking at 80% workforce, and now we are only it only translates into 27% of our GDP. That is woefully inadequate. So look at the 20%. in the formal sector, how much they are contributing. So it tells you there is a fundamental problem when it comes to our informal sector, where there is a chunk of our workforce.
But if we have 80% there, but we're just going to about 20%, what is the reason?
That is what I'm telling you. Unemployment is one.
No, but they are already in there employed, from what I get.
Yes. So if you look at the Ghana Statistical Service report itself,
Yes.
you realize that some of them are just hand to mouth, and some are menial and mega jobs.
Okay.
So some are for, let's say, a week, and it is done, a month. So that's why I told you earlier on that these are jobs that are not sustainable.
Okay.
And that is why its contribution to our GDP is just 27%. So if you are able to make or translate this informal workforce and make it sustainable, for instance, let's say if we are going to, I remember there was this, is it NBSSI? Some time ago,
Yeah.
they used to give soft loans to these SMEs, and that is how come they will shop. So you see, once we are able to do some of these government interventions, I know we'll come there, so I would leave that. But if you're able to help the informal sector, and you see, the reason it is adding only 27% to our GDP, and which will not drive economic growth. Once there is major economic drive in the country, then you see government also get a lot of resources to create more jobs, and more people get employed. But now, because a huge margin of our work or labor force is in the informal sector, government gets the taxes. How many informal workers will pay taxes to the government? They won't. Especially, it is now that the municipal assemblies and the district assemblies are doing it. You see people carrying water in traffic and the rest. You can't go and tax these people, especially when you walk past the 37, where Cessna's, the traffic light. You can't go and tell such a person to come and pay tax to you unless it is the assembly. And that one, how long would we collect those taxes to create sustainable jobs for the youth in our country? So for me, I believe if we would be able to do well, we would have to, it comes back to financing. That is why institutions like NBSS, I don't know whether it's still in existence, we would have to give them more resources to be able to help these SMEs so that they can do well and employ more people, so that we would rather, let's say, in the next 5 years, by the time we'll be talking about our informal sector, we'll be looking at 40% of the workforce in our informal sector. Other than that, we will come here yearly and talk about this same issue.
Right. Prof, I'll turn to you again. And you had mentioned how with education, the educator must ensure that he bridges the gap between academia and industry. Prof, since you are in the educational field at the highest level, what are our professors getting wrong in the universities? Let's assume that for the basic level, there's a main regulator, so the teachers must just be whipped in line. But in the universities, the professors create their own course outlines. What are they getting wrong, or why are they still stuck in a space where when you come out of your educational institution, sometimes you are completely disconnected from the industrial world?
Yeah, what is actually happening is that the colonial virus has not died yet in the minds of many people. The minds have not been decolonized yet. And by that decoloniality, I'm talking about the fact that we have not been able to cut our level from the metropolitan knowledge base. We need, as a people, again, to ask ourselves, what kind of knowledge are we consuming? And I made mention of Paula Ferrer. You can go into any of the departments, and the whole, you hear father of this, father of that, father of this, father of that, and you will never hear anyone African, even in the whole course. Only few. People even publish, and they don't even use, a lot of them don't even have the confidence to use their own material to start off decolonizing the whole process. A lot of effort has been done, you know. People have tried. Kwesi, the philosopher in the US, you know, Jachi in Legon, you know, there's a guy at linguistics department. His name will come, opening something. I met him last time. His name will come to me in a bit. You know, these guys and Kofi Anyinda, who, you know, and Amono and the rest, you know, you can go to Ngugi wa Thiong'o, Ama Tedu, you know, these are people who are actually thinking in the African way of trying to capture our own world. In fact, Jacques Spivak could say that, can the subaltern speak? Can the subaltern speak? In other words, can we really have our own voices in a world that really is always creating dominant narratives and we buying into that hegemonic structure of thinking and practice? Who sets the standards? What are the global best practices? And how are we featured in? Where and what is the global village? And where is our stool in the global village? Are we just handmaidens in the global village, or we are actually having paramountcies in the global village? All this comes from the fact that we have not identified ourselves enough as Africans. We need to be able to really look into the mirror and then see that enough is enough with the way in which we go about training our students. As for the universities, unless, and I will say that the technical universities, based on their mandate, were supposed to be more proactive in marrying theory and practice. As for the other universities, the traditional universities, I may call them the Legon, KNUST, UCC, and all that, except some very practical courses like architecture, medicine. As for even agric, I did agric, so I can tell you that the type of agric that we did, I did crop science. But the crop science that we did was more theory, okay, based than practice. And no wonder my interest was not there. And it has not changed, okay? Now people are more happy to go into agric economics than to go into agric mechanic and agric engineering, okay? And that's where we need the tools to be able to generate our own tools, which are cost effective and all that, to be able to give it to the farmers, you know, to bring the needed change that we have. So things are not really at the university. Like I said, the colonial virus is there. It's still virulent. It is still colonizing the minds of people. And we must be able to really think again outside the box and ask ourselves, all these years of our establishment, what are we actually doing? At KNUST, before I got into consultancy from 2020, what we're doing, for example, with our tourism course, we were the only tourism program in the country that were adding internship component, which was supervised and also graded, such that students took overt importance to the program of getting at least some level of practical aspect to it. There's a new one being developed. I don't know the state of it now. But we cannot, if you go to University of Johannesburg, where I am, you know, where I'm, you know, associated, they have the School of Tourism and Hospitality. And I've been asking for this time immemorial that we need a teaching school. I was in Racine College in the US, Florida, Orlando. And here is the school, here is the hotel. So that by the time you finish, you know the ins and outs of what you are studying. You see, my good friend made mention of entrepreneurship being just an appurtenance, an appendix to our educational system in the country, and that is bad. The reason is that even if you are reading history, entrepreneurship should be part of your course. What is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship is the ability to be able to look beyond whichever discipline you have and then bringing solutions into practice. And whether you go with the Schumpeterian perspective to entrepreneurship, where you talk about the fact that entrepreneurs are born, or maybe you go with Israel Kirzner or the Kirznerian perspective to entrepreneurship, which is more like entrepreneurs are not born, you can learn it. And normally, if I was in a classroom, I would say that the debate, the sharp binary of whether entrepreneurs are born or made, is neither here or there for me. I think that people can be trained to really look in their own area of competence or expertise and see how they can be useful to society. For example, this year is the 80th year of the Pan-African Congress. Okay? And this is history. So, for example, they can have history in practice, where we look at our history and see what we can make business out of it. I've been telling people that, this is the 80th anniversary of the Pan-African Congress, the only Congress that really got Kenyatta, Kwame Nkrumah, Jallo, and all the rest go back to their countries and really fight for independence. And Ghana at the very center of it, because Kwame Nkrumah was the co-secretary with George Padmore. I've been telling people they didn't. I only had to tell a very good friend of mine, and he was able to get the Kingdom of Morocco to buy into the idea. And they are hosting the 80th anniversary in Morocco. But imagine if Ghana, and with Kwame Nkrumah at the center of it, had positioned it. Imagine the traffic that could have even done for tourism. You see? So I always say that, and I'm not into history, okay? I'm just a professor, and I use my big head that God has given me, all right? So when I'm there as a professor, I must be thinking. That's my job as a professor. When I bring an idea as a professor, and they take it or they don't take it, some of them personally too, I am back on them myself to make sure that I'm not a professor stuck in the classroom. I remember at KNUST, I was going around with the SRC to all the communities almost in the Ashanti region, talking to the students there about how they should motivate themselves, they can do better for themselves and all that. And it was for almost nothing. You get it? But the issue was that you must be passionate about the youth. And we must be passionate about the education that we have. Because without the education, even touching, like again, touching the head, touching the heart, and bringing the technical skills to the hand, that education will be dangerous to any country. And we need the energy around it back. And that is why the right education will help us to be able to look at the entrepreneurial opportunities that we have. And also for us to preempt it, because, entrepreneurship can also create what we call entrepreneurial Caesar. Entrepreneurial Caesar is that you think like, I can do this, then you're a good plumber, for example, but you are not good at accounting. And you want to do accounting in addition to your plumbing. Then you realize I can do accounting, so you're going to face problems. That is why in entrepreneurship, you have to form your right team to be able to create the right synergy that you need to be able to bring the success that you want. And the last point I want to raise here is this. A lot of people start good businesses in Africa. But the problem why it is also adding on to the unemployment is that we don't have succession plan. This woman started this business. He will be at the helm of it to the very last breath. And none has been mentored, guided, trained to be able to fit into that shoe that was doing so well. And then when there is an unfortunate scenario of incapacity, yada, yada, you find that company that was doing very well suddenly, plummeting into oblivion. Sometimes too, we think too much in silos, small mindset. If we say we are in a global village, then why are we always thinking small sometimes? So people must also think big, because Anybody born in Ghana does not mean that he is just a Ghanaian. He's a global citizen. And that mindset must be in our mind, that we can shake the whole world from whichever corner that we are. You see, that big thinking, if you are in America and all that, you don't just think about America. The American dream is not just within the geography of America. It is about the geography of the world. And the world is different from the earth. The world is how we bring our power of minds and knowledge and money and all the other resources that we can mobilize to be able to cause the change that we are looking at. And the change must start from the educators, because if the educator himself or herself is suffering from the colonial virus, how can he then not transfer it on? Because it is the water in the pot that gets into the calabash or the cup that you drink from. So let's check what water is in the pot to start with.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you for the insightful contribution. I think Prof will drop off at this point. But Prof, we are very thankful for your insights you have shared with us on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks to the audience.
Right, so it's still a focus on Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio. We'll take a very short breather here. When we come back, we'll continue with the conversation. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to Z101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.
Dream Home. No interest for 2 years. Are you ready to step into your dream home? With Lakeside Estates' exclusive offer, you can own your own home in just 2 years with no interest repayment. This offers you affordable payments, flexible home purchase plan, quality homes, and lifestyle choice. Choose from a variety of beautiful homes in any of Lakeside Hills clusters. Your future awaits you. Imagine living in a home you love with the freedom to invest in your dreams without the burden of interest. As your CIMG Real Estate Company of the Year for the 4th time, we offer you hassle-free home acquisition. Call us today on 020-477-5040 or 020-141-8622. Don't miss out on this incredible opportunity. Call us now to learn more and schedule a tour for our available homes. T&C Supplied. Make your dream a reality. Lakeside Estate. Quality homes for all.
Z101.9 FM. Z101.9 FM.
Rwanda, Ntakwesi, Liberia, Ntakwesi, Togoland, Ntakwesi, Karabatu, Ntakwesi, Karabatu, Ntakwesi, be a brabon in the essay was I see Suya. As someone may be sad, and the Yas in the Wajan and the Ura. Nabana sign, no Babes, some difference. Asana in Safanano.
Right, that's honesty from Randy Nunu. Many thanks for staying with us. Still the focus on Z 101.9 FM. And if you're just joining us, we're having a conversation on the unemployment threat in Ghana, in Africa, and the way forward. Mr. Penton, I'll come to you now. And we have looked at the problems. We have identified education. We've identified the informal sector, the over-dependence on public sector and all of it. Now let's start from the educational system. What can we do better there, especially from your perspective? Yes, you have given us some insights earlier, but going forward, what can we do better? You have spoken about mental, that they'll lash you, you can go to school. In fact, I think it was even a reason why a lot of people are not going to school, or they'll go to school later and tell a lie. Clearly what Randy Nunu is saying, honesty. Because you think of the fact that if I go from 7 to 7:30, they're going to ask me to recite 3 times 30 something. How will I know? So you go and hide someone, go and say his father is sick. But what do you think we can do to our education as right from the scratch so that we can be able to be solving unemployment right from the base?
Okay, so Kwaku, for me, I believe this is what we can do at the basics. For me, I have always thought of this. Have you asked yourself why from the foundation our language of instruction is English?
I'm guessing it's a global thing because we are trying to fit our people also into our global market.
Countries like Rwanda
have
adopted a policy where from the biggest, their level of instruction is their native language. That's the Swahili. For instance,
isn't that because Swahili is also recognized as an international language?
Perhaps, maybe, but that is predominantly the native language in Rwanda. For me, I live in...
But here in Ghana, so in Rwanda, as you mentioned, it's a predominant language. Yeah. But here in Ghana, I'm not too sure we can mention one language that predominantly. Because even if you consider, let's say, Tree, I mean, in Accra, the Ghanaians to want to say that no, their language is also very important.
For me, I think it is good. And for me, I think when you are in Accra or when you are in Ghana, for the biggest, the language of instruction should be your mother tongue. And for me, I think, you see...
But in class, how will we have it? Because you may have events in the class, you have accounts in the class, you have Gans in the class, we have people speak Dagomba, different languages. How are they going to be instructed?
Let me give you a real life scenario.
Yeah.
So I started growing up from Obuasi.
Yeah.
So I attended St. Philip's. Fast forward, when I got to somewhere around class 6, I was brought to Accra. So I had to do Ga because there was no Chi in my school. I started, and there is this Acha, normal Acha, and all those things. And the Ga madam happens to be a catering madam.
Okay.
So she was teaching, and our Ga class is just after our catering. So I don't know whether she forgot herself that she's still not in the Ga class, but we are in a catering class. And she said, Ebiko. And someone who has just come from Obuasi, Ashanti region, who has done Chi all my life, I was just at the back and I said, what is this madam saying about, pardon my language, Ebini? And I received the beatings of my life.
You told her?
No, I was asking. I didn't know.
Okay.
That it's a Ebiko.
Ebi.
Aha.
But you heard it as Ebi.
Something.
Because Ebi said that, is it ready? Like is the food ready?
Like I didn't even get it, but she took it like I was saying feces or something. And in fact, so I decided to go back to Obuasi to complete. So I did my Chi during my BEC, and I did very well. But I had a cousin who started in Accra. She wrote Ga and passed with 1. So for me, I believe, you see, for the formative stages of every child, when you see, that is why when a child who is a Northerner can stay in Accra, speak her language, that's the northern London language and also learn the Ga is because at that stage, the child's mind is now forming. So it's open to a lot of suggestions. So for me, I believe if we practice that, we'll be fine. And as Prof said, I believe, Prof agreed with me to some extent that, you see, this regurgitating information and test taking is a thing of the past that we just have to do away with it. So I believe that there are, as Prof said, there are modern ways of education. And we shouldn't just adapt to the style that now everyone wants to have research done and we all have to do questionnaire, but that is the order of the day. So I'm also looking at it from this perspective. Now let me come to government policies. We are looking at solutions. I believe successive governments have done so much. Looking at where unemployment rate, how alarming it was, the introduction of NAPCO. But if you look at most of government's interventions, they are not sustainable in the long term. So it's just in the interim.
Yeah.
For instance, this government is looking at YouStart and the 24-hour economy. Fantastic idea. For me, I believe it is something that would help us as a people, and it would create some leverage for us as young people, so we should capitalize on it, because they are saying that one job, 3 shifts.
Yeah.
So if you're able to implement this, if it's not only going to be a political rhetoric, and we are going to implement it, in the next 2-3 years, the unemployment rate in Ghana would reduce drastically if you're able to implement the 24-hour economy. And I think they have this Grow 24 policy. I think if they're able to implement it very well, so government has a lot of juicy policies that can drastically reduce or eliminate unemployment menace from our society. But it has to do with implementation and sustainability. Because we saw NAPCO, and we thought NAPCO was a game changer. Least did we know that 3-4 years down the line, now I don't think they are even in existence. NAPCO is dead and gone. So I don't want this 24-hour economy and YouStart, Grow 24 should just elapse with government. Yeah. It should be something that can be sustained in the long term.
Yeah.
But something beats my imagination. And for me, I've always thought about this. I think our supreme law of the land discriminates against young people. And Council, do you know why I say that?
Tell me.
If you look at our constitution, Article 62, 1 clause B or so, it says that if you are not 40 years, you cannot be president.
Mm-hmm.
Why should it be that? Why should we put that caveat to it? Meanwhile, when you go to countries like Rwanda and Senegal, they've had people who were not even up to 40 years, and they've been able to ascend to the highest position of president and have turned their economies around.
Yeah.
So for me, I believe I think there is a constitutional review committee. I think that aspect, they should also look at it for us.
But isn't it also because for members of parliament, there's no age gap?
Yeah.
So giving the youth, okay, you can try there, at least start it small, start it in your community, start in your municipality, get the experience, build it, and come to the presidency. Don't you think that is also a plausible reason?
Oh,
or you think that we should just jump to the presidency? That's possible.
No, maybe I don't have the aspirations to be a member of parliament.
Yeah.
I want to be president. That's my aspiration. But why should I go through the ranks?
But if you want to save us, you can start as small. So you save the community. Let us see that you have saved your community. Then all of us will have the faith that they can trust the whole country in your hands.
So I don't think anyone would want to wake up one day and just decide to be president.
Oh, there are people like that. There are a lot of people, they have no plan. All he needs is that I want to be the president of Ghana, just in name. There are a lot of people like that.
Just in name?
Yes.
maybe that is the person's
And
plan.
in fact, there's somebody I'll mention his name, whose story he tells that the reason why he joined the army was only because he wants to do a coup and become president. That was all.
Wow.
He just wanted to have that title that I was president of
So
Ghana.
no, so that person has a plan or a motive.
No,
But
his
just
motive is that he just wants to have the title.
Yes, so just that motive is like
Yeah,
ill motivated. It's
Yeah.
not in the best interest of us.
yeah.
You get it. So for me, I believe we should look at that aspect.
So you think that at least the presidency, we should start thinking of giving the youth the opportunity to aim higher?
Yeah. If Senegal is able to do it, Rwanda is able to do it. And
Even Burkina Faso, we have a young person as their
If-
leader,
I didn't want to use Burkina Faso because it is,
an unconstitutional president.
yes, somehow people might,
Yeah.
it's arguable. But the next thing we would also have to look at, if we want to do away with unemployment in our society, is the role of private sector.
Yeah.
And I believe that the private sector can go a long way to augment efforts of government in job creation and skill development. And you see, whilst I was in school, there is something I realized that how many of us even had internships?
Yeah.
You see, we have graduates who go to school for 4 years. And within that 4 years, they don't even take it upon themselves to have internship. Some also do. So when I was in school, I was a course rep
Yeah.
for my people. And for me, one thing that I got advice, and that is where maybe mentorship and the rest comes in, but that will be the next layer that I will talk about. The rep that was ahead of me told me, look, you people should do internship very early so that at least by level 2, 300, those who didn't get opportunity to do in level 100 would that time have opportunity to. So what I did was that I just wrote a letter to our department. I have to talk to them, and they gave all of us internship letters.
Okay.
So I just came and shared it to the members in the classroom. So you take yours. If you get fine, level 200, I did same. So by the time we were all completing, at least I knew most of my classmates had some form of internship. And if this thing would work,
But we are told that with internship, when they go for the job, they are just sent to go and buy food and.
yeah, no. You see, it is, that is why I'm saying that the private sector would have to like augment government efforts. So
Okay.
that's why I'm saying that even where I was coming to is that even for them to even pick you is an issue.
Yeah.
There are times you would get the letter from your institution and take it to them. They will tell you, we are sorry. We don't have space. We can't accommodate you. Not because they are going to pay you or anything, but just that they don't want another person
Yeah.
to just come in.
Yeah.
So I'm just pleading that the private sector should also look at some of these things so that at least they can give hands-on or job training to these young ones. As well as I've talked about internships. Also, I would also want to look at investment in high growth sectors
Okay. And when you say high growth sectors, what do you mean?
like agribusiness, automobile, and pharmaceuticals.
But particularly about this agribusiness, if our prof had mentioned that he did agriculture,
Yeah.
don't you think that there's a stigma? Or I mean, from where you sit,
And I will tell you why.
yeah,
Growing up, whilst we were in school, when you commit an offense, especially in senior high school,
you eat.
so that is why I tell you that. You see,
But
for-
even going to secondary school, for most schools I know, their agri classes are for the people who did not do too well. So they understand if you're really agri, it means that you are a low graded science student. You were trying to go to the chemistry, biology, physics.
So these things are all stigma within
Yeah.
our educational system that we would have to do away with. As you said, the school I attended, when you come in, you are all science students, but you would have to write exams.
Okay.
So what you do is that the first 30 goes to science 1.
Okay.
The next 30 goes to science 2. The next 30 goes to science 3, and so those who go to science 4 and science 5, automatic, you are doing
Agric.
Whether you like it or not, you are going to do agric. So I believe that we've come of age. We've come to a time where some of these things should be a thing of the past when we are talking about educational system. So you see, when we look at the educational system, it has a lot because its ripple effect is many. And also, I also think for the private sector, they should also look at strategic partnership. For instance, I think recently I saw something with YEA and Shagzy to provide cars so that the young ones who are not working will at least get something to do. I believe these things are things that the private sector should push. And also, let's also look at the area of agric modernization. And I was sad that Prof said he has lost interest in agric. And it is mainly because, as I stated earlier, growing up, when you want to be punished, you are told to go and read. So we've seen it as a form of punishment, even from the onset.
Yeah.
But to be fair, if I don't know whether you have a friend who is a farmer, if you look at some of the figures coming out from agriculture, you'll be marveled. I believe that we've not had so much education on it. And for me, when I look at agric modernization, I'm not looking at just the produce or the raw materials. I'm looking at where we will be able to process our raw materials into semi or finished goods. And let's say, as Prof was saying, the sugar cane. If we have to have produce sugar cane, that means we can that raw materials from the sugar cane can be produced into sugar. And once we have a processing factory like that, look at the number of employment it will create.
Yeah.
So if we want to tackle unemployment head on, some of these things should come to bear. And don't forget, it would also come back to government policies. There should be some tax rebate for entrepreneurs who would want to take those high-risk ventures so that at least they can also employ more people. And also, we can also look at TVET. Okay. TVET training.
Tell us for the benefit of our listeners and our viewers what TVET is.
Technical and vocational training. So, TVET and entrepreneurship training. For me, I believe that it is one thing that would it is a game changer for us in that, for instance, let's look at the people mostly in the informal sector. They are people who have their own jobs, or they are people in the TVET arena. I have seen that mainly they lack the technical know-how, especially bridging education and industry. So, for instance, now many people would want to go in for people who are not experts in that field. You know, it's not like they are not experts in that field. You can get someone who don't have much education, but when it comes to painting, the person can have this place painted, and when you enter this room, you'll be out by it.
Yeah.
Because he has gifted hands. So for me, I think we should look at being able to train these people so that their creativity and innovativeness would grow.
So it means that you're also calling for the hand and heart model.
Yes.
Where we are not just training you that go and learn in school, we are training your hands, and we're also training you holistically as a person.
Kwaku, to be honest with you, that will be the only game changer for us. And now maybe this is where I would want to side with you. You know, in your intro, you mentioned that with the advent of AI, and now I would want to also look at technological and digital skills. You said that with the advent of AI, in no time, many jobs will be automated.
Yeah.
And it is not like in any time, it is even happening.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I can create financial statements in the comfort of my home, All I need is a priming and a prompt. With the use of AI, and I put in my figures, Kweku, I'm good to go. So what is going to happen is that very soon, many people studying humanities in our university, there will be no work for them. And they would come back. That is why you see, if you look at the statistics that you provided in your intro, that very soon we are going to have 1.2 billion graduates. But the only job that will be available will be 400 million. So you ask the question, what do we do with? I want to encourage every young person not to give up. The future is bright. But if only we will take our future into our hands. We shouldn't fight AI, but rather we should love it. We should fall in love with it.
But how about those who are saying that the AI now is creating laziness? Because you have a generation where there's abundance of knowledge, but there's also abundance of ignorance. Because they'll barely know it. All he just cares that he puts in the machine. In fact, I know some people who, when you're having a conversation with them on phone, it's the AI. So when you ask them the question, they put the question in AI. AI generates an answer. They send it to you.
But Kweku, I don't know whether you've noticed this. AI is such that it works with what I call GIGO. Okay. Garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
Or you've not noticed. So I can set something with you on the same, let's say AI, let's say ChatGPT.
And to give different content.
It will give different content simply because maybe my prompting is different from your prompting.
Yeah.
So for me, I don't think it is going to make us lazy or it is making us lazy. What I think is that we should know how to use AI ethically. And if I say ethically, even if now in academic research, there is a leeway of about 20% of the use of AI. So even academic institutions have recognized that we can't fight AI, but we can make use of it to our interest. And now this is where you are saying that it makes people lazy. For instance, now if I see many posts online, the last time I was telling a friend, when I read people's posts, I can easily infer this is an AI generated.
Oh yes.
The reason you see it is that once the person puts in the prompt or search online or on an AI platform, the person will just, that's why maybe where you said is true, laziness. The person will just copy verbatim. So it will be cut and paste.
But even was it, I think a year ago or so, or 2 years ago, was it BC or WASI, one of them, where apparently some students had money to smuggle in gadgets into the...
Yeah.
And the problem was that they put in the prompts. Typical AI will start that, okay, thank you, I can answer. They copied everything and put it there. That was even a bigger problem, even more than the AI they are using. Because then now there was nothing in your mind to tell you that, take out that part. He managed to copy it and submit. That was a big problem.
So you see, it comes back to what I said. Garbage in, garbage out. So one thing I've realized in life is that, you see, it is not about the use of AI. It is about the person who is using AI. And maybe this is where I'll come back to. What role? In all these unemployment conversation, the unemployed or the youth, we also have a role to play.
Yeah.
And as we normally say in our local parlance, Obrane de warabo. To it, life is what you have made of it, not what anyone has made for you. So for me, I believe that as much as we are all gearing ourselves for the use of AI, we should also be prepping ourselves for what is ahead. You see, for me, I don't think AI should take away our creativeness. Okay. So I use AI as a guide.
Yeah.
For me, most of the times when I'm short of ideas, I want to get new perspective. I write. That is why I always prime my promptings in AI. Then I tell the AI what I really want to do, what I would want to achieve, the objectives and everything. Then I put it in. Then it suggests. So you see, most of the times, if you've studied Kwesi, if you use ChatGPT or maybe Grok, this is what it says. It says, below are some suggestions.
Yeah.
It is not telling you to take it hook, line, and sinker. It's just suggesting to you, these are some of the things you can do. So it is for you to now take up these suggestions, modify it, reframe it if need be, and work on it. So for me, I believe AI is here to help us. But if you don't use it ethically, that is where it would become a challenge for us, as you are saying. How can a young person go and put this prompt and say thank you, you go and copy, not knowing these are even like intro
exactly
to these things. So for me, and you see, that comes back to it. For me, I also believe we should start teaching our kids how to use this AI.
So you think we should add it to our curriculum, even at the basic level?
Yes, we have to. Let me tell you, in my church, I've started a program with our junior youth who are between the ages of 12 to 16 years.
Okay.
We started with Google Docs. We just want to introduce them to these things. So by the time they will get there, they will not find themselves wanting. For instance, in Singapore, it is a high-tech country.
Yeah.
In their Singapore port, they have less than 20 human capital working in there. Everything is robotics.
Yeah. It's highly animated.
So,
automated, I mean.
Yes. So you know that you can't fight it. It is coming. China, and I've seen that. I think some banks in Ghana have started doing it.
Yeah.
You go to a bank, you walk into a bank, and you only have 2 people working in the bank.
Yeah.
Everything is highly automated. We are getting there, and very soon we will catch up. So for the accountants and all these things, I am appealing to them. And these ones, I'm not only talking to those who are not unemployed. I'm also talking to those who are employed. That for you not to face off in the next 5-4 years, you should also start looking at how AI can enhance your work as a young person.
Right. So generally, while we wrap up, we just have about 5 minutes to go. What advice will you give to the young person, the one who is facing unemployment, the one who is employed, as you mentioned, who, because of technology, we can see that there's a possibility of unemployment in the future. What advice will you give for them?
This will be my advice for every young person. First and foremost, know your purpose. Know your worth. Find relevant skills. Dedicate time for it. Develop it. And we should never in our life stop embracing lifelong learning, because learning and education never ceases in life.
All right, so Mr. Appleton says that we should never cease learning because learning should never end. Thank you very much, Mr. Appleton, for the very insightful conversation today. I guess we've learned a lot. You have shared a lot of insights, more particularly about how we should start thinking outside the box from our educational system. Your bit about how we just take in knowledge, don't know what to do with it, we just share it in class. That person who is the one who is able to consume the knowledge is considered the most brilliant in class. Many thanks also to Professor Gabriel Ishon, who spends his morning with us, also giving a lot of perspective from the educational side on how unemployment can be solved from the educational borders. And many thanks to everybody who spent their Saturday morning with us, listening to us, having a conversation on the unemployment threat, Ghana, Africa, and the way forward. Every one of us then must be very guarded of what we're doing, and as Mr. Appleton left us off, we must be committed to learning, because the job you have today is not assured tomorrow, especially in the face of technology. And if you're like me, who decides to run away from technology, Mr. Appleton advises that we rather run back to it and embrace it, because that is the future we are entering into. Once again, many thanks for spending your Saturday morning with us and for listening to us. Do well to follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, ZFMGH, on our YouTube and our TikTok, Z Multimedia. And anytime you can listen to us around the world on www.zmultimedia.com. We'll bring the show to an end here, and we shall meet again next week, same time. Do not turn your dial from here. The sports team will join us shortly. And do have a very good weekend and a very good week. God bless us all.
You're tuned in to Z 101.9 FM, your lifestyle, leisure, and business radio.